I met my wife Sue during our college years, a period that was both exhilarating and formative. The campus was a bustling hub of youthful energy, where dreams were as expansive as the horizon, and every encounter seemed like a serendipitous event waiting to unfold. From the moment Sue and I first crossed paths, there was an undeniable connection. Our initial conversations were effortless, filled with laughter and curiosity about each other's lives. We quickly became inseparable, finding solace in each other's company amidst the chaos of college life. Our relationship evolved from casual acquaintances to close friends, and then to something more profound and meaningful. We spent countless hours discussing our hopes and fears, sharing our most intimate thoughts, and exploring the world together, whether it was through spontaneous road trips, late-night study sessions, or simply enjoying quiet moments of companionship. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day, and by the time we graduated, it was clear that we wanted to continue this journey together. We got married in a ceremony that was a blend of tradition and personal touches, surrounded by our closest friends and family. It was a celebration of our love and commitment, marking the beginning of a new chapter in our lives. We embarked on this new journey with dreams of building a future together, envisioning a life filled with shared experiences, growth, and mutual support. In the early years of our marriage, everything seemed to fall into place seamlessly. We settled into our roles as a married couple with a sense of ease and contentment. We created our routines, pursued our individual and shared interests, and planned for our future with optimism. Our life together was marked by a sense of stability and happiness, and it felt like nothing could disrupt the harmony we had cultivated. However, life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges our way. My best friend Dav experienced a profound tragedy that would forever alter the course of our lives. Dav's wife, who had been his rock and partner in every sense, passed away suddenly. The news was devastating, and Dav was left grappling with an overwhelming sense of grief and loneliness. Witnessing my friend in such profound pain, I felt a deep sense of empathy and a strong desire to support him through this incredibly difficult time. It was a natural inclination to extend a helping hand, and I reached out to Sue, knowing that her compassionate nature would be a source of comfort for Dav. Sue, with her characteristic kindness and empathy, agreed to help. They began spending time together, talking through their grief and trying to find solace in each other's company. It was a support system that, in hindsight, would take on a different dimension. Their connection grew deeper as they leaned on each other, and it was during this period that I started to notice subtle changes in Sue's behavior. She became more secretive about her whereabouts, frequently absent from home, and her demeanor shifted in ways that I found unsettling. Despite my growing unease, Sue's explanations for her absences were always plausible, and I tried to trust her, believing that her intentions were pure and that our relationship was resilient enough to withstand any challenges. The turning point came one evening when Sue said she would be working late at the office. My intuition, however, told me otherwise. I decided to investigate, and with a mix of trepidation and curiosity, I discovered that Sue was at Dav's house. My heart pounded as I approached the front door, and the sight that greeted me was one I had never anticipated. Sue and Dav were together in an intimate embrace, a scene that shattered me to my core. The realization that my wife had been unfaithful was a devastating blow, and the impact of that discovery was profound and immediate. The pain of betrayal was all-consuming. I confronted Sue and Dav, and the truth of their affair unfolded in a way that was both painful and disorienting. Sue admitted to the infidelity, and her attempts to explain her actions were met with a mix of disbelief and anguish. She spoke of the emotional support she had provided to Dav, which had, unfortunately, evolved into something more intimate. Her justifications, however, did little to alleviate the profound hurt I felt. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship was irrevocably shattered, and the sense of betrayal was overwhelming. Sue's attempts to make amends and save our marriage were heartfelt but ultimately insufficient. Her apologies, though sincere, only deepened my sense of betrayal and disappointment. The emotional turmoil was compounded by the realization that the trust we had built was now a relic of the past. I struggled to reconcile my feelings of love for Sue with the immense hurt caused by her actions. After much contemplation, I made the painful decision to proceed with a divorce. The process was emotionally draining and marked by a sense of finality that was difficult to accept. The end of our marriage felt like the closing of a chapter that I had once believed would be filled with shared happiness and dreams. In the aftermath of the divorce, Sue's life took a tragic turn. The emotional strain and guilt she carried led her down a path of substance abuse. The downward spiral was a stark contrast to the vibrant and compassionate person I had once known. Her struggle with addiction culminated in a drug overdose, a harrowing event that left her in a vulnerable and fragile state. The subsequent stroke she suffered added to her suffering, leaving her partially immobile and in need of constant care. Seeing Sue in such a condition was a stark reminder of the complex and often painful nature of our shared history. The transformation from a once loving partner to someone in such a dire situation was jarring and heart-wrenching. Sue's family, understandably, placed the blame for her tragic downfall on me. They accused me of being the catalyst for her suffering and expressed their anger and resentment towards me. The weight of their accusations was heavy, and I grappled with feelings of guilt and regret. The impact of the choices made and the resulting consequences were difficult to reconcile. The guilt I felt was compounded by a deep sense of sorrow for the life Sue had been forced to endure. Navigating this complex web of emotions, guilt, regret, and the desire for closure, was a daunting and challenging process. As I move forward, the journey to healing and finding peace is ongoing. The experience has left me reflecting on the intricacies of human relationships and the unforeseen consequences that can arise from our actions. The road to emotional recovery is uncertain, but I am determined to find a way to reconcile my feelings and seek a sense of peace amidst the turmoil. The story of our lives, with all its twists and turns, serves as a poignant reminder of the fragility of trust, the impact of our choices, and the enduring quest for understanding and closure. Now we will move towards the next story. Lately, my wife and I have been grappling with significant marital issues, primarily revolving around her best friend, whom I'll refer to as S. S is also married to my wife's brother, which has complicated our family dynamics considerably. My wife seems to go above and beyond for S and her family, accommodating their every request and frequently volunteering me for tasks without consulting me. This has created a growing sense of resentment and frustration on my part, as I feel sidelined in my own marriage. The situation escalated recently during a birthday party for my nephew, which was hosted by S. As my wife was anxious to ensure everything went smoothly, our 3-year-old daughter became upset when her balloon animal burst. In her distress, she cuddled with my wife, who was trying to comfort her. However, things took a turn for the worse when a 5-year-old boy accidentally bumped into our daughter, causing her to cry. Instead of showing sympathy, my wife dismissed the incident and told me that our daughter needed to watch where she was going, placing the blame on her rather than the boy who had knocked her over. This reaction was deeply hurtful to me, and I couldn't help but respond in frustration. In the heat of the moment, my wife, in front of S and other guests, told me to shut my mouth, which was incredibly humiliating and infuriating. Her response seemed to prioritize her friend's feelings over our family's, and I felt completely disrespected. That evening, my frustration reached a boiling point, and I decided to seek legal advice. I contacted a divorce lawyer for a consultation, driven by the overwhelming sense that I had reached my limit. The lawyer explained the process in Scotland, noting that a divorce can be a lengthy procedure, especially if only one party wants to proceed. Evidence of separation is required, and the process could take up to a year unless both parties agree on unreasonable behavior as grounds for divorce. This meant that if I wanted to expedite the resolution, I needed my wife's cooperation. I took my daughter to stay with my mother for the night and confronted my wife about the party incident. I made it clear that her behavior was unacceptable and that if I had acted in the same way, I would have faced severe criticism from everyone we know. I emphasized how her constant prioritization of S over our family and her dismissive attitude towards our daughter's feelings had pushed me to the brink. In a dramatic and perhaps petty move, I dropped divorce leaflets printed from my solicitor's website in front of her. I told her that I was tired of being a secondary character in my own marriage and that I was not willing to continue living in a situation where I felt subservient and unappreciated. Her reaction was intense. She sobbed uncontrollably and seemed on the verge of collapsing, which made me feel conflicted. Despite my anger, I still cared about her and didn't want to see her in distress. She assured me that she would listen to my concerns and that we could have a serious discussion about our issues after I finished work the next day. I was skeptical, but decided to give her the benefit of the doubt. During our discussion, she apologized for her behavior at the party and admitted that if I had acted similarly, she would have been just as upset. She defended her actions by saying that she felt the need to prioritize S due to her role in the family, but acknowledged that blaming our daughter was out of line. I asked her directly if she had any romantic feelings for S, given the intense way she seemed to prioritize her. She became visibly uneasy and mentioned a past incident involving an inebriated kiss with S during high school, but claimed that it was nothing more. She insisted that this incident had no bearing on our current relationship and denied any romantic involvement with S, attributing her behavior to a misguided sense of obligation rather than any romantic feelings. Despite her assurances, I felt skeptical and decided to keep a close watch on her actions. I told her that while I was willing to give our relationship another chance, I needed to see proof of genuine improvement. I informed her that if the situation didn't change, I would be taking our daughter to stay with my mother again. This was a difficult decision, but I felt it was necessary to protect our family's well-being and to make it clear that her behavior needed to change. The situation took another turn on my birthday. My wife had planned to spend the day with S and other friends, leaving me feeling isolated on my special day. She gave me a card and mentioned that my birthday gift hadn't arrived yet, which added to my frustration. I went through the day at work and came home to find that she had chosen to prioritize S over celebrating my birthday with me. Her social media post about my birthday, which falsely claimed that I was working, only added to my embarrassment and sense of neglect. I felt completely disregarded and isolated, and her actions made it clear that she valued her friendship with S more than our relationship. The final straw came when my wife spent hours preparing a gift for S, while neglecting my birthday entirely. I reached a breaking point and had a heated confrontation with her, expressing my deep frustration about how her prioritization of S had ruined my birthday and made me feel like a mere afterthought in our marriage. I vented about how I had sacrificed my own needs and desires to keep her happy, how I had been sidelined in my own home, and how her actions had led to a lack of appreciation and understanding from her. We both became emotional, and eventually, we agreed that she would temporarily stay with her parents while I looked after our daughter. The past few days have been emotionally draining and exhausting. I am trying to navigate this situation, focusing on caring for my daughter and reflecting on our relationship. We haven't had much communication except for necessary exchanges about our daughter. I am taking the time to evaluate our marriage and decide on the best course of action moving forward. This experience has been incredibly painful and revealing, highlighting deep-seated issues in our relationship that need to be addressed, whether through reconciliation or separation.